Modern CPA. Our purpose is to provide valuable information to small business owners. On our podcast, Profit Points, we discuss business how-tos, give tax tips, and dig into real-life experiences in the crazy world of running your own business. If you find this podcast helpful, then like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. Welcome, everyone, to Profit Points, where we talk to professionals, industry experts, and other small business owners about the ins and outs of being in business. And today we have Ann and Kyle here from Premier Payroll. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to talk about third-party payroll processing. Ann, you want to take it?
Sure. Thanks, Michelle and Sean, for having us on your episode today. Kyle and I are going to take the next few minutes to talk to small business owners about three topics that we think are super important when looking to outsource your payroll. We think an important topic is what are the benefits to a business owner of outsourcing their payroll? Common mistakes we see when business owners try to do their first payroll and do it by themselves. And the third topic we thought we would touch on is if you happen to sign up with a payroll provider you're not happy with, what it looks like to transition from one provider to another.
Yeah, these are great topics because I think that it's very intimidating for that small business owner to make this step into having payroll and hiring somebody. And we want to emphasize the fact that this is not independent contractors, right? These are actual employees of yours. So we want to be sure that this is going in the right direction. All the rules are being followed, all the forms are being completed. And that's why it's so important to outsource that payroll. So, Ann, let's dig into the benefits of this, outsourcing payroll.
So topic number one, benefits for a small business owner when outsourcing their payroll. The first thing that comes to my mind after 10 years of being in this industry is getting your employees paid on time. Obviously, that is probably the number one thing that needs to happen when you bring on a new hire is they're going to do work for you, and in return, you are going to pay them accurately and on time. But what follows behind that is all of the different tax liabilities you as a business owner are responsible for. When I meet with clients for the first time, they know they have to pay their employees, but they have no idea what it means to pay payroll taxes, which is the cost of doing business in the United States. So what I think Kyle and I do really well at is explaining what payroll taxes are to the small business owner, what comes out of not only the employee's paycheck, but what the business owner has as the liability from matching Social Security, matching Medicare, paying into state unemployment, paying into federal unemployment. So I like to educate my clients so they know exactly what is happening behind the scenes aside for their employee just getting paid every other Friday.
I think one of the things that you mentioned about the employer taxes is that people think, oh, I want to hire somebody at X number of dollars per hour, but then they don't realize that all these other taxes are on top of that dollar amount. And it costs them much more than just that X number of dollars an hour.
Exactly. So I always joke with my clients, it's not my fee you're going to, have your antenna up about. It's the 12.5% of payroll taxes. That is the additional fee that you incur as a business owner when you hire your first employee. But at the end of the day, your business must be growing, which is why you need to bring on a new employee. So the next logical thing to do is, partnering with a payroll service. Something else that's a benefit to the small business owner is we're going to apply for those state tax IDs on your company's behalf. Our office knows exactly where to go to apply for the tax IDs. We're going to link them up to the appropriate government agencies so that you can be assured that your tax money is going to the appropriate places. And a third party is overseeing all of your payroll and all of your tax payments. So the business owner is responsible for just having money in their bank account to fund this and pressing submit in a timely manner, knowing that everything behind the scenes is actually being done soup to nuts on your company's behalf.
So that brings up another point about multiple states, because we have people that maybe even in this community that have a lot of online presence and could have employees in different states, and they need to have their antennas up about multi-state tax filings. I don't think a lot of people are prepared for that, especially now that a lot of people are working remotely. So you could hire somebody in a completely different state, but now you have these state taxes that have to get filed as well.
Correct. And people are notorious for taking a look at, I live on the border of Westchester and Delaware. Wilmington, Delaware is right across the line, Glen Mills, Delaware. And a Delaware employee or employer will ask the Pennsylvania business owner what they did. And being literally a half a block apart, they have to pay different state taxes, and there's not reciprocity. So don't take, the advice from your neighbor who's in another state when it comes to paying.
Oh, we get that a lot.
Yeah. The infamous neighbor advice is one to avoid, right?
Right. We can't be listening to our neighbors about everything. And another one point I want to add about the benefits of outsourcing is your accountant plays an important role in your business, in your tax planning, could be in your payroll advice. And we have the ability to link up with accountants so that they are able to view their client's payroll portal if they need to do a tax projection or take some tax numbers and do their bookkeeping and record keeping. So just outsourcing really eliminates the additional time a business owner needs to spend on deciding and figuring out, where every single tax needs to go from a federal, state, city, local, township perspective. And outsourcing takes care of all of that with, one small monthly fee.
Awesome. That's so great. Yeah, we find it.
It's such a benefit to be linked up with you guys as a third party payroll service, to be able to just go in, access all our clients, be able to pull reports anytime we want, anytime we need, and it saves a lot of back and forth and a lot of time, and it really adds value to our relationships with our clients.
And one last thing I would add to that is, every new business owner is starting to think where they can trim the fat and take shortcuts and get away with not doing something. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm sure Kyle would also agree, when we see someone try to do, their own, which Kyle will talk about, there's just so many errors that are made that are just going to cost you in the long run, instead of doing things the right way with truly understanding what your responsibility is with employer and employee taxes. That's what I can't stress enough, is over the years I've realized, if you understand those two things, payroll becomes easier. But if you don't understand what money's moving and where it's going and who's getting what piece of the pie, it just leads to more confusion and time spent doing your payroll, when payroll makes you no money. Working on your business makes you money. Payroll is just something that has to be done.
I always say to my small business clients that are like branching out and starting the payroll process and hiring, I always tell them, if you are going to spend your money anywhere, you spend it on payroll processing. Because
I would agree. I'd agree.
I agree. I totally wholeheartedly, because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you're not filing the right things, if you're not paying on time, if you get behind on this. And so the stress that it causes, it will save you like so much stress just by hiring a payroll service.
And then I'm sure you guys have had the clients that say to you, well, I'm just a one-person payroll. It's not that hard.
But it is. But it can be. Yeah.
It can be. And you have to follow the same rules as a 500-person company. You have to withhold and remit payroll taxes, whether you're one employee or you have a 500-person company. Everyone still has to play by the same payroll rules.
Right.
So
exactly.
don't make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're 1 day late on making your payroll deposits, those are penalties and interest
Right.
that accumulate, and they pile up fast, and they end up, multiplying on themselves because you're constantly missing those deposits.
And then you're calling you guys to ask for help, and they don't think that, your fees then come into play. And it's like, you have to send the notice to your accountant. They're not working for free on the phone with the IRS or the State Department for the hours they have to spend on the phone. So it's actually, a better use of one's money than I think the small business owner sometimes realizes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I would agree with that. And one of the greatest things is just getting the right payroll processor, third-party payroll provider, because customer service in this industry is huge. Like, it really makes a difference. So, yeah. So the next thing is common mistakes. Kyle, what are your thoughts on these things?
So I'm going to talk about what we hear a lot, and everybody does, is that they can save money. And what we hear is the comparison between us and a lot of the software programs that you can buy and pay for and do it yourself. It's cheaper. It saves money. That's the biggest thing we hear. With us being in Pennsylvania, the most common mistake we typically see with most of our clients being in PA is that local tax. We've converted clients who weren't paying it at all for any of their employees because some of those software programs, you build it, you set it up, and if you don't do it correct, it's still going to process your payroll and it's not going to catch those mistakes. So that's probably the most common thing, which doesn't necessarily always affect the business owner, but it leads to unhappy employees at the end of the year when they get that tax bill. And then obviously unhappy employees lead to an unhappy workplace, which then has them complaining to the business owner.
Yeah. I think it's good to note too that it's not just Pennsylvania that has local or some sort of municipal type tax that has to be collected. And it may not even be an income tax. It could be some sort of occupation tax that has to be remitted. And so every state or every jurisdiction could be different.
Right. And it changes. And that's the thing. You really have to if you're doing it yourself and you're processing it, you have to stay up to date on all the changes that they're making and as they come out and make those adjustments in the system. It's not going to do it themselves where, if a business owner comes to us, we're going to do it for them. We're going to notify them of any changes and things like that. So that is one of the biggest things we see. The second thing, a lot of it is that the cost and that they're saving money doing it themselves. And I'm sure Anne's the same way. When I sit down with a business owner who's doing it themselves, I typically ask them how much time they spend doing it. Usually the answer is a couple hours a month. And then my follow-up question is, well, how much do you bill for your time? People think,
how much can you make in that time instead of
and what is the value of your time? What could you be doing with those 4 or 5 hours a month that you're spending? Whereas you're sitting at the computer doing your payroll, making sure everything's done correctly, writing out the checks or however you're doing it. Your time is valuable. You didn't start a business to sit there and do payroll. You started a business to do landscaping, construction, whatever it is you do. You're spending
whatever it is you do.
Right. And most of them say, well, I do it at night. Well, do you have a family? Would you like to be doing something else at night? I mean, no matter when you do it, there's always something more valuable you could probably be doing with your time than doing payroll. And, a lot of times that's kind of what leads to people. They do it for a little bit and then they realize they're spending too much time on it. The other thing is you're going to have issues. Everybody's going to have issues. Who do you call? Who is your go-to contact? A lot of times it's probably going to be you guys. They're going to call their accountant and say, I have issues. And like Anne said, accountants are going to, fix your mistakes or help you out, but that's going to come at a fee over time. And then it really starts to add up.
Yeah, we typically say we don't do payroll. So, I mean, we could try to help you, but that's not what we do every day. It's so complicated and such a niche in our industry that we leave it to you guys as the experts at doing payroll to handle that stuff. So,
and if you saw if you interviewed Kyle, like our clients, and you said those that were doing it themselves and now outsource, no one would ever say, man, I'm going to get rid of a payroll service and I'm going to go back to doing it in-house. I'm going to go back to the good old paper and, Excel spreadsheet. That's never going to happen. So trust when we say you should outsource your payroll, like you will never think twice about going backwards again.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think like Kyle, you were saying about, who do you call? And I'm not trying to knock large payroll providers, but that is a problem with some larger payroll providers as well, is that who do you call? Yes, there's somebody there, but you're never talking to the same person. It's constantly changing. And that's why when we refer out to like you guys, we know that the person who's calling is going to get one of a few people that are really going to be able to help them and who are going to know them.
Yeah, a lot of it is the response time. Things are going to happen. You're going to get notices. You're going to be in the system trying to do something. And how quickly can somebody get back to you? The 800 number is the biggest complaint I hear. I call this 800 number. I get passed around here and there. And then even at that, I've heard wait times. I've heard people not hear back for 2 weeks. And obviously payroll is something that needs to be fixed right away. Like most people wait till the day it's due. Somebody's got to get paid. And then if you're waiting a couple of days for a response, it's going to affect your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because payroll is one of those things that you want to get fixed like right away, especially if it's affecting the employee's paycheck. Like most small business owners, like, oh, I don't want them to have to deal with this. Like, let's get them whole. Yeah. Let's make that right with the employee, and I'll take care of it on the back end.
And I think Sean brought it up before, like being a day late on a payment, if you're doing it yourself, they lose track and then they file a day late, they miss something by a couple days and they just pay the penalty. And to them, oh, I was a day late. It's okay. I paid the penalty. But when you start to add all that up, the cost of what you're paying for the software, the cost of if you get one penalty,
and
it's probably almost the same as paying somebody else to do it. And you're not wasting your time doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I'm all for like delegation. The more we can delegate to the appropriate people, the better,
Right. Choose the experts. Like you said, your big thing as a payroll company, the first thing I say is get a good accountant, partnering and letting people do what what they specialize in is really what's going to benefit your business.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I see that comes up under this topic is when people try to do it themselves, they don't actually have all of their employee documents and paperwork in a row.
That's a good point.
And these payroll systems as an industry whole are what's called human resource information systems. So whether you have one employee or 500, this system is housing all of your company and employee data. So the idea is to grow your business. Yes, you may start out with one person, but one becomes two becomes five becomes 10. It's really important you have a record-keeping system for not only your payroll data, but for your employee data. And that's what's great about also, outsourcing is it's a home to keep all of your data. I always say the days of filing cabinets are kind of obsolete. Everyone is housing their, company information and their data in a software system like this. So partnering with Premier, you get the software, but then you get the service of our office to help with all the daily questions that our clients have.
I'm sure you guys, who 3-4 years ago, who would have thought PPP loans would be a thing and you would rely so much on your payroll and accountants and everything.
I can't tell you how much time I spent in the systems pulling down information.
Yeah. Right. And if you're doing it yourself, how are you getting, they were sending out stuff daily, changes to this, that, here's what you need. And if you're doing it yourself, those were the people who really struggled during a lot of that time.
Mm-hmm. And probably left some money on the table with, getting the additional help that they needed from the government when the government was sending out those, basically the loans that turned into, forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of free money that was coming out of there, and people were missing out by not having the right data.
Yeah. It can help them stay afloat during like the hardest periods.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the process, though, like you do have people that will start with a certain payroll provider, right? And like they're not happy. So
Right.
then they're like, okay, wait a minute.
What do we do?
Now I'm a little more experienced. I need to do something different because this is not working. So
Yeah,
what do they do?
And Michelle, this is a tale as old as time, right? They start with the cheap and the discounted providers, and they don't realize that there most likely won't be any service. Your pricing will go up. You'll try to ask for help and it will turn into 2 weeks, like Kyle mentioned. So then it becomes, well, how do we switch our provider? What do we do to rectify all these problems we've been having? And I'm here to tell you that transitioning payroll is not as hard and complicated as people think. And why people think it's so challenging, right, is because they picked one national provider and then they moved to the next national provider and thought there was going to be a difference in national provider number one and national provider number two.
Yep.
So once we start there and we have you use provider one, you've moved to provider two, now your antennas are up because you think that was a terrible experience and it's going to be another terrible experience to come to a company like Premier. I'm here to tell you it is not a terrible experience. So what typically happens is everyone's using some sort of payroll system now. We are going into that system and we as a company are moving your data from company A to Premier. We're going in and collecting year-to-date data, employee data, auditing the payroll back to January of the year that we're in. And we're getting your payroll system built on our end so that when the client goes live with Premier, it's like you've processed payroll with Premier for the entire year. So we don't skip any beats. There's no 2 sets of returns or W-2s. It's just simply data collecting from one provider, moving to another in a timely manner so that everything looks like it happened from the same provider going back to January. And clients will say, well, what happens if you find something that's not right? Well, Kyle can attest to this. 9 out of 10 times we do find some things that are inaccurate and we're just going to fix it. And we're going to get you on a straight and narrow to go forward in the year and then making sure that your W-2s are correct at the end of the year. So clients tend to appreciate that we found something that could have been set up differently, a local tax like Kyle mentioned that will correct on your end. We can kind of clean up your payroll and get rid of some employees that may no longer be with you. So it's not as uncommon to transition as people think. That's, I'd say 80% of my business is someone that's with a national or a provider they're not happy with, and they want to come to a service like Premier. And they're thankful that we were able to clean up some things that may not have been 100% perfect. And, we'll make it so you leave on good terms with your current provider. We'll send a letter of what needs to be refunded to you. And we do it all year long. So I think people think that it can only be done on an annual basis or a quarterly basis. Even a lot of the accounting community doesn't know what Premier is actually doing behind the scenes. They're used to the ways of give me that big old payroll binder. I'll make copies of the payroll, bring it to my new company, photocopy that in the system. That was payroll, 10 years ago. That's how it was transitioned.
Yeah.
So that's how it once was transitioned. So you can see how some people think this might be a nightmare when really no longer it is.
And the idea is that it's not a nightmare for you guys because you know exactly what to look for. You know exactly how to do it. If somebody was trying to pull that information themselves and put it into something else themselves, talk about difficulty, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just not happening. So the owner, when we work with them, has to do minimal work for a transition. So it usually ends up being a great decision. I never hear they want to go back to the way it was being done before. So it's a little adjustment and we do it all year round. It's not like we only bring on new clients in January and on quarter breaks. Kyle and I transition companies,
all the time,
all year round. So feel confident, small business owner, that if you choose to use someone first before finding Premier, that it will be an easy switch to partner with Premier.
Yeah. one of the things that I wanted to bring up about one of the benefits that I see with small business owners, when they have some employees, and they may also still have independent contractors that are working for them that they pay on a regular basis, Premier actually can handle paying those independent contractors as well. So they can get set up with the auto, payment of those independent contractors and then issue 1099s on their behalf. And so that's also a really nice benefit. And we don't see that all the time in payroll, other payroll providers. So.
Yeah. And I've even seen it where you have a mixed, employees and subcontractor, or
exactly.
A couple of clients. Yeah, are just subcontractors. Like they don't want to physically write checks every week out of their checkbook or go to their bank and electronically set up, a 1099 payment. So they'll come on our system again because we're giving them the house to store their employee or subcontractor data, and they can use us to cut the direct deposit to their subcontractors. So the platform works both ways: subcontractors, employees, seasonal work.
Yeah, that's a good benefit. Yeah.
So in your experience, I know some providers bring people in at certain rates, and I'm not asking to provide a cost, but on average, I think most people expect to pay some sort of, obviously there's a fee involved in all of this and all of the filings and everything. Is there a range that people might expect to pay in that maybe 0 to 10? I mean, I know that's probably pretty big because it depends on number of employees, but is there any kind of range?
Structure and just kind of go
Yeah. So basically how it is obviously we charge per process, usually a base fee. And there's some things that go into that. Are they getting direct deposit? How frequently are they paying? Are they paying postage to send checks in the mail? So it really can be a wide range. I typically like to sit down and talk. A lot of the small businesses look for the most cost efficient way to do it. And that's where Ann and I will explain to them, well, if you cut this, cut that. I have businesses who write their own checks and just use us to do the tax payments and things like that. And it saves them some money just in postage fees. Obviously, we work with a lot of local businesses who come and pick up checks from our office to save that postage fee. So really, it's kind of...
It depends.
Yeah, it's a conversation. And, some of it is just changing the way they do things. With a previous provider, they might be getting documents sent to them in the mail and they're paying a $15 postage fee. Okay, well, everything online, you don't need to get them. Why are you getting paper sent?
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing is that it's not an incentive. We're not offering, hey, here's this discounted rate when you sign up with us. So there's not that increase at the 6 month, at the year, at the, when you come with us, you know what you're paying. And for a lot of small businesses and even some nonprofits, that's important for their budget to know this is what it is. This is what I'm being charged. There's no hidden fees. We don't try to bundle sell a whole bunch of services and things like that. And that's really the main thing.
One of the things that I know some small businesses do is they'll pay their people on a weekly basis, and they're wondering why they're paying so much in payroll processing fees. Well, they're running payroll every week where they could do it on a biweekly basis or, twice a month or whatever.
And I think that's fair. The biweekly seems to be, to the small business owner who's never started a payroll before, depending on your industry, trades typically gear and lean towards weekly. That's just been an industry standard amongst the trades. But we get paid biweekly. There's nothing that seems to be the most cost-effective and time-effective solution in business today. Typically, people can't wait a month for a paycheck. I personally think that's a little unfair to some industries to pay monthly. And I think why there's that misconception is because maybe the business owner was just unsure of if the employee was going to truly become an employee and stay with them, that they were maybe writing checks in the beginning weekly, and then they sign or look into a payroll service and they get pricing for weekly. when really I would say, hey, listen, I know you were, trying this person out and now it looks like they're going to become an employee. Let's get a pay schedule in place where they're paid biweekly. So you don't have to do payroll as much and you save on your processing fee. That seems to be the best route to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I typically see is a biweekly when it's more than just the owner as the employee.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
and a lot of businesses don't know, like, you can convert. I just had one who was weekly with their previous one, and when we were talking about it, I gave them the option. Here's what it looks like if you run weekly. Here's what it looks like if you run biweekly. You can save some money. It wasn't so much that we were going to be cheaper or anything like that, but we offered that option. And when they called their previous payroll company, they didn't. They didn't tell them, hey, you can save some money if you switch to a biweekly payroll. And some of that is just having the conversation and seeing what they need and what they're looking for.
And some people are like, oh, well, my employees will get upset. They're not getting paid on a weekly basis. And you'd be surprised. You have a conversation with them. Just, don't spring it on them. Like, give them some advance notice. People are okay. They usually adapt. So it's
people
not
are okay. And I think Premier, we're working with typically small to medium-sized family-owned and operated businesses. That's exactly what we are. So I don't care what the large providers are offering you. We're not playing in the same ballpark with them. We cannot offer you free months of service and 50% off of our fees. We have a more than fair fee structure, and I don't hear any pushback about it because the service is meeting and exceeding their expectations to justify the fees that they're paying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you guys are bringing a value to the businesses that the national providers are not with your service, and giving them options, talking them through different scenarios, helping them with other issues from before they came on. So I see it as it's an
experience to work to come on board with Premier. They're seeing the experience.
It's a bigger value there.
The experience of our service.
Right. And customer service. Yeah, customer service is there's you can't find it as much around in different services and different even retail. So having that personal customer service touch is really
usually
a good opportunity.
Yeah, and usually the business that Kyle and I are meeting with, they were referred to us from an accountant, a benefit broker, a current client. They're running the same small business in a different industry, and they're competing with national providers, and we can't offer, the things that national providers are offering their clients. It's just not our model. It's not the small deli man, the deli shop, model, the pizza shop, the car repair shop. We're not operating on those scales, and therefore we're not offering the discount of the day. But our clients appreciate that we're just like them. I mean, we're no different than the 10-man deli. We're the 10-person payroll company. You're the 10-person deli. I mean,
exactly.
We're playing in your same league.
That's right. That's right. Well, did you guys have any other things that you wanted to mention to the small business owner? Anything that while we were having this conversation, kind of jumped out at you? I think all of this information has been so helpful. I really think that a small business owner who's just starting out with payroll is really gonna.
I think one of the biggest things I can say, if you're talking about startups and business owners who are getting ready to start, it's never too early to have that conversation, but sometimes you can wait too long. I mean, we get business owners who already have their employee working and reach out to us and are like, hey, I need a paycheck for this Friday.
Yeah.
So what I would say is it's always a good conversation to have ahead of time and, know what's going to be needed. Even if you don't have an employee yet, but you're thinking about it, it's a good conversation to have to know what we're going to do, what we can do for you, what you're going to need, instead of waiting till after you bring on an employee and they need to get paid.
I agree wholeheartedly. And when you ask those business owners that follow our lead and let they let us set them up correctly with a correct pay period, understanding the tax payments, having a couple payroll processes of their employee getting paid, and how smooth that runs. And when they add employees, it's effortless. The new employees added, it's effortless, versus the scenario Kyle just referenced. It's night and day the experience someone can have if they just let their payroll be set up correctly from the beginning versus trying to play catch up, switching pay periods, switching pay frequencies, misclassification of employees, which that could be a podcast for a whole nother day of misclassification. Just do it right the first time, like anything, to avoid all of the time and money you will waste trying to take shortcuts doing this on your own is the only real advice I can give.
Exactly. We have a course that's going to be coming out, and it's about starting up a business. And one of the topics is creating your team. And on that list is a payroll processor, right? Because you need to have them in place. Even if you're not quite ready for that employee yet, you have to have a connection with somebody that you feel comfortable with and know, like, I can call this person and we can get this process going. And it's definitely good to have them have you guys on their team. So
we're happy to be on that kind of team. I don't know why we're always picked last for the team sometimes. Picked first for the team.
Exactly.
Sometimes we get picked last.
Best for last. I don't know.
Yeah, the best for last, but I don't know how you did ABC before calling me, but well, happy to help.
Happy to help. Exactly.
You guys are the closer, right?
Yeah, I gotta save the best for last.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for being here with us today. It was a lot of information. I think really good stuff for small business owners who are just getting going with hiring employees. So thanks again, Anne and Kyle.
Thank you for having us.
Look forward to maybe having you on again.
Yes, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
You too.
If you find this podcast helpful, then like, subscribe, and follow us on social media.